Hi, it's Randy. I'm getting ready to assemble, I think this is going to be the last steps for the dry run. I have already programmed the Marlin firmware onto the Arduino board, and I've mounted it with two standoffs I found laying around. They're a little longer than I'd like. It's about an inch away from the board, but I'm told there are 3 holes you can line this up with, but I can only find 2. I then reattached the ramps board with the smart SD controller already plugged in, and I've got my all my cables for my end stops and for the 3 stepper motors plugged in. Now I reversed 2 of them because an earlier experiment told me that the x-axis and the z-axis run backwards, and you can fix that in the firmware, or you can just take the cable out, flip it over, and plug it back in. Ultimately I may change the firmware, but for the time being I just swapped the cables. I've already attached one of my Z-threaded rods, and I'm about to attach the other one. I'm going to seat this all the way down. I have another friend that told me that there's a little dimple on the top here that if you put a ball bearing there, it'll ride if you make sure you put your shaft all the way down. Otherwise you can get compression in the spring, and you don't want that because it's carrying the weight of the whole gantry and the whole x-axis. But I'm going to slide it all the way down and compress it. Tighten that. Alright. I'm going to drop the y-axis on. It's starting to line up. I'm going to turn them both together about the same number of rotations. I'm going to keep turning them until the threaded rod is flush with the top of the nut. And this one's kind of tight, it's binding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to loosen up the screws holding the nut for the z-axis, because there's no guarantee that when these were assembled at the factory that they were straight. So, and also there's no guarantee that my threaded rods are perfectly straight either. So there's a little bit of play in it right now. I'll tighten that up later, but for the moment I want to leave the play in. It makes things turn a lot easier. Okay, so I've got the X stage on. Got the Z mounts in. Okay, my end stop cable, I don't want any stress on it because it'll come unplugged. I want to make sure it comes out the side of the gantry there. Alright, everything's hooked up. I'm going to do a dry run test. Let's see. Get the power supply turned on. Alright, it's set to 15 volts. And I don't know if the cables will reach. I'll pull it up and put it on the table. Okay. Ground up first. This is not the power supply I'm using longer, it's just a test power supply for the time being. I took the power cable. Alright. The controller came up. So let's see, I'm going to go to the prepare, scroll down, move axis. I'm going to say move 1 millimeter. Start with the X. So 1 millimeter positive. Should probably measure that, make sure it's 1 millimeter. It seems to be moving. Bring it back to 0. Okay. Down to Y, push, turn. Okay, that's positive. As the carriage goes that way, the extruder will come back, so that's good. That's positive Y. Okay. The distances are probably close. Z. So 1 millimeter up is going to be bad because it's going to pull off the top. Let's try it anyway. Okay, 1 millimeter up. 1 millimeter back down. Okay. Let's try one more. Let's do the back up to the top. Auto home. Okay, if all the end stops are correct and everything is good, the axes should each pull back one at a time. So X, Y, Z. Probably need some oil somewhere. I hear squeaks. And I can see my threaded rods are wobbling. So they're not perfectly straight. They're probably bent. sure if it'll take me all the way or it'll error out. Okay, the light came on, it stopped, it's auto-homed. And I call it a successful test. Good.